Bloodline of a Mafia Boss. In the heart of New York City, amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, Maximilian Goldwyn ascended to power as the new head of the Goldwyn crime family. With his father's passing, Maximilian inherited not only the family's vast fortune, but also its legacy of power and influence in the underworld. As Maximilian settled into his new role, he knew that maintaining control would require cunning, strength, and unwavering loyalty from those around him. One evening, in the dimly lit confines of his lavish penthouse, Maximilian gathered his most trusted advisors to discuss the future of the family. "I won't let my father's legacy crumble," Maximilian declared, his voice firm with determination. "We will expand our operations, tighten our grip on the city, and ensure that the Goldwyn name remains synonymous with power and respect." And so, the reign of Maximilian Goldwyn began, as he embarked on a journey to solidify his place at the pinnacle of the criminal underworld. Maximilian's rise to power did not go unnoticed by rival factions vying for control of the city's lucrative criminal enterprises. Chief among them was the Rosso family, led by the formidable Don Salvatore Rosso. Tension simmered between the Goldwins and the Rossos, each determined to assert their dominance over the other. One fateful night, a skirmish erupted between the two families, sparking a violent feud that threatened to engulf the city in chaos. As the streets ran red with blood, Maximilian knew that he would need to tread carefully if he hoped to emerge victorious in the deadly game of a cat and mouse that lay ahead. With the Rosso family breathing down his neck, Maximilian realized that he would need to make sacrifices to maintain his hold on power. Conversations echoed through the dimly lit corridors of Maximilian's mansion as he brokered deals with rivals gangs, forging alliances that would bolster his strength and ensure his survival. But as the body count rose and the stakes grew higher, Maximilian began to question the cost of his ambitions. How many lives would be lost in the pursuit of power, and was it worth sacrificing his own humanity in the process? Despite the dangers that surrounded him, Maximilian remained fiercely protective of his family. His wife Isabella and their children, Luca and Sofia, were his everything, the only light in his dark and dangerous world. One evening, as Maximilian returned home after a long day of dealing with rival factions, he found Isabella waiting for him, concern etched into her features. "Max, I worry about the children," Isabella confessed, her voice trembling with fear. "They shouldn't have to grow up surrounded by violence and bloodshed." Maximilian's heart clenched at the thought of his family being caught in the crossfire of his dangerous lifestyle, yet he knew that there was no escaping the legacy that had been passed down to him. "Well, do whatever it takes to keep them safe," Maximilian vowed, his jaw set with determination. "I won't let anything happen to our family." And with that promise weighing heavily on his shoulders, Maximilian vowed to protect his loved ones at all cost, even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. As Maximilian navigated the treacherous water of the criminal underworld, he soon discovered that loyalty was a rare commodity. Betrayal lurked around every corner as ambitious underlinings sought to undermine his authority and seize power for themselves. One of Maximilian's most trusted lieutenants, Marco, had long been rumored to have ambitions of his own, but when evidence of Marco's treachery surfaced, Maximilian was faced with a difficult decision. Conversations in dimly lit rooms turned tense as Maximilian confronted Marco, his voice laced with barely concealed rage. "You were like a son to me, Marco!" Maximilian growled, his fist clenched in fury. "And yet you would betray me for your own selfish ambitions?" Marco's eyes darted nervously, sweat beading on his brow as he struggled to find words to justify his actions. But Maximilian's patience had worn thin, and with a heavy heart, He ordered Marcus' expulsion from the family, knowing that trust once broken and could never be fully repaired. In the midst of chaos and betrayal, Maximilian found an unexpected ally in the form of Elena, a femme fatale with ties to rival factions. Despite their differences, Maximilian couldn't deny the pull he felt towards Elena, drawn to her dangerous allure like a moth to a flame. Conversations in shadowy alleyways turned heated as Maximilian and Elena danced around their mutual attraction, each knowing the risk of succumbing to forbidden desire. You know the risk of getting involved with me, Elena, Maximilian warned, his voice sting with warning. But I can't stay away from you. Elena's laughter was like music to Maximilian's ears as she leaned in close, her lips brushing against his ear. Who said anything about playing it safe, Max? She purred, her eyes smoldering with desire. And with that, Maximilian knew that he was willingly stepping into the lion's den, fully aware of the dangers that awaited him. As the feud with the Rosso family escalated, Maximilian knew that he would need to deploy every weapon in his arsenal if he hoped to emerge victorious. With tensions reaching a boiling point, the streets of New York City became a battleground as rival factions clashed in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Conversation in smoke-filled backrooms turned strategic as Maximilian plotted his next move, his mind a whirlwind of schemes and counter schemes. We need to hit them where it hurts the most, Maximilian declared, his voice low and dangerous. Well, cut off their supply lines, disrupt their operations, and leave them scrambling to scraps. And so the stage was set for a showdown of epic proportions as Maximilian prepared to unleash hell upon his enemies with ruthless precision. Amidst the chaos and bloodshed, Maximilian found himself haunted by memories of his father, a man whose shadow loomed large over his every move. Conversations in the dead of night turned into perspective as Maximilian grappled with the weight of his father's legacy, wondering if he was destined to follow in his footsteps or forge his own path. You would be proud of what I've accomplished, father, Maximilian whispered into the darkness, his voice tinged with a mixture of pride and regret. But I can't help but wonder if there's another way, a path that doesn't lead to ruin and despair. And as Maximilian stared out into the night, he vowed to honor his father's memory by carving out a future that was free from the shackles of the past. But try as he might to escape his past, Maximilian soon discovered that some ghosts could never be laid to rest. Conversations with old adversaries turned volatile as long-buried secrets resurfaced, threatening to unveil everything Maximilian had worked so hard to build. You thought you could escape your past, Max? A sinister voice whispered from the shadows. But the sins of your father will always follow you. Maximilian's blood ran cold as he stared into the eyes of his old enemies, a man whose thirst for vengeance knew no bounds, and as the specter of his past loomed large, Maximilian knew that he would need to confront his demons head-on if he hoped to emerge unscathed. With danger lurking around every corner, Maximilian knew that he would need to make difficult choices if he hoped to protect those he loved. Conversations with his family turned somber as Maximilian grappled with the weight of his responsibilities, torn between his duty to the family and his desire for redemption. I won't let anything happen to you, Isabella, Maximilian vowed, his voice tinged with determination. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Isabella's eyes softened with love as she reached out to caress his cheek. I believe in you, Max, she whispered, her voice filled with unvarying faith. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. And with Isabella's words echoing in his heart, Maximilian knew that he would stop at nothing to protect his family even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. As the feud with the Rosso family reached its boiling point, Maximilian knew that he needed to take decisive action to ensure the survival of his family and his legacy. Conversations in the depths of the night turned strategic as Maximilian plotted his boldest move yet, a daring assault in the heart of Rosso territory. Gathered in the dimly lit confines of his mansion, Maximilian outlined his plan to his more trusted lieutenants, their faces grim with determination. "We strike hard and fast, catching them off guard," Maximilian declared, his voice steady despite the weight of the impending battle. "We'll show them that the Goldwins are not to be underestimated." With the fate of the family hanging in the balance, Maximilian steeled himself for the inevitable showdown that awaited them. The night of the assault dawned with an airy stillness as Maximilian and his men descended upon Rosso territory under the cover of darkness. Conversations were replaced by the deafening roar of gunfire and the clang of metal against metal as the streets erupted into chaos. But as the battle raged on, Maximilian soon discovered that not all was it seemed. Betrayal lurked in the shadows as one of his own men turned against him, selling out the family to the highest bidder. Caught off guard and outnumbered, Maximilian fought tooth and nail to protect his men and secure victory against impossible odds. But as the smoke cleared and the dust settled, he knew that the cost of victory had been slipped. Despite emerging victorious from the bloody conflict, Maximilian couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that gnawed at his soul. On conversations with his inner demons turned bitter as he surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The streets littered with the bodies of friends and foes alike. "What have we become?" Maximilian whispered to himself, his voice heavy with regret. "Is this what my father would have wanted?" But there was no time for self-pity or doubt, not when the Rosso family stole posed a threat to his reign. With a heavy heart, Maximilian steeled himself for the next phase of the war, knowing that the fight was far from over. As Maximilian regrouped and licked his wounds, he soon discovered that the true danger lay not in external threats, but in the enemy within conversations in the halls of power turned tense as whispers of dissent echoed among his ranks, sowing seeds of doubt and discord. "It's only a matter of time before they turn you, Max," a voice hissed from the shadows, its words dripping with venomous intent. Maximilian's jaw clenched with fury as he realized the extent of the betrayal that had taken root within his own organization. With traitors lurking in every corner, he knew that he would need to purge the ranks of disloyalty if he hoped to maintain control. Desperate times called for desperate measures, and Maximilian soon found himself forging an unlikely alliance with an old rival. Conversations in smoky backrooms turned tense as he brokered a deal with Don Salvatore Russo, a very man he had fought so fiercely against. "You're a fool if you think I'll trust you, Goldwyn," Russo sneered, his eyes narrowed with suspension. Maximilian met Ross's gaze head-on, his expression resolute. "Trust has nothing to do with it," he replied, his voice cold and calculating. "We both want the same thing, to eliminate our enemies and secure our hold on the city." And with that uneasy truce in place, Maximilian knew that he had bought himself some much needed breathing room in the deadly game of power and politics. But as Maximilian's alliance with Rosso bore fruit, he soon discovered that the cost of betrayal was higher than he could have ever imagined. Conversations with his conscience turned agonizing as he watched his once loyal lieutenants fall one by one, victims of Rosso's insatiable thirst of power. "I never should have trusted him," Maximilian muttered to himself, his hands clenched in frustration. "I've brought this upon myself." But even as doubt gnawed at his resolve, Maximilian knew that there was no turning back. With enemies closing in form of all sides, he would need to stay one step ahead if he hoped to survive the deadly game of cat and mouse that lay ahead. As tensions reached a fever pitch, Maximilian found himself pushed to the brink of his sanity. Conversations with his inner demons turned dark and twisted as he grappled with the weight of his sins, each one of heavy burden that threatening to crush him beneath his weight. I can't do this anymore, Maximilian whispered hoarsely in his voice struck with despair. I'm tired of the bloodshed, the betrayals, the endless cycle of violence. But even as he contemplated walking away from it all, Maximilian knew that there was no escaping legacy that had been thrust upon him. For better or worse, he is a Goldwyn and the blood in his family ran through his veins. With his back against the wall and nowhere left to turn, Maximilian knew that the time for action had come. Conversation with his remaining allies turned urgent as they plotted their final assault on Russo territory, determined to rid the city of their mutual enemy once and for all. This ends tonight, declared Maximilian, his voice ringing with conviction. We'll take the fight to them and show them that the Goldwins will not be defeated so easily. And with that rallying cry ringing in their ears, Maximilian and his men prepared for the battle of their lives, knowing that the fate of the city hung in the balance. The night of the final showdown dawned with an ominous sense of foreboding as Maximilian and his men descended upon Rosa territory with grim determination. Conversations were replaced by the deafening roar of gunfire and the clash of steel against steel as the streets erupted into chaos once more. But as the battle raged on, Maximilian soon realized that victory would not come without sacrifice. Conversations with his fallen comrades turned poignant as he watched friends and allies fall in the line of duty, their blood staining the pavement as a grim testament of their unwavering loyalty. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Maximilian emerged victorious from the bloody conflict. His enemies vanquished and his legacy secured. Conversations with his surviving men turned somber as they took stock of the cost of the victory, mourning the loss of those who had fallen in the line of duty. But amidst the carnage and destruction, Maximilian found a glimmer of hope for the future. Conversations with his family turned tender as he embraced Isabella and their children, grateful for their safety and unwavering support throughout the ordeal. With the Rosso family defeated and his enemies scattered to the winds, Maximilian emerged from the ashes to the conflict a changed man. Conversation with his inner demons turned hopeful. With the city underworld in disarray and his enemies vanquished, Maximilian turned his attention to rebuilding a shattered remnants of his empire. Conversations with his trusted advisors turned strategic as they charted a course for the family's future, determined to rise from the ashes stronger than ever before. We'll rebuild from the ground up, Maximilian declared, his voice ringing with conviction, and will do it the right way and honor and integrity. And so, amidst the rubble and ruins, Maximilian laid the foundation for a new era of prosperity and stability, one built on the principles of loyalty, respect, and family. As the dust settled and the city began to heal from the scars of conflict, Maximilian found himself walking a precarious tightrope between peace and turmoil. Conversation with his former adversaries turned chaos as he sought to establish a fragile truce, wary of the slimmering tensions that still lingered beneath the surface. We've shed enough blood, Maximilian declared, his voice echoing with authority. It's time to put an end of the cycle of violence and forge a new path forward. But even as Maximilian extended the olive branch of peace, he knew that the wounds of the past ran deep and that maintaining the fragile peace would require constant vigilance and unwavering resolve. As the years passed and Maximilian's reign continued unchallenged, the legend of the Goldwyn family grew, their name whispered in hushed tones of fear and respect throughout the city. Conversations in smoky taverns and dark alleyways spoke of their power and influence, their legacy cemented in the annals of the history. But amidst the tales of glory and triumph, there were whispers of a darker truth, a truth that spoke of the cost of power, the sacrifices made in the name of ambition, and the lives lost along the way. And as Maximilian gazed out over the city he had fought so hard to control, he couldn't help but wonder if the price of his legacy had been worth it after all. As Maximilian's reign entered its twilight years, the city underwent a transformation unlike any it had seen before. Conversations in the halls of power turned to whispers of change as a new generation rose to challenge the status quo, their voices echoing with calls for reform and progress. And as Maximilian looked out over the skyline of the city he had once ruled with an iron fist, he knew that his time had become to an end. Conversation with his family turned bittersweet as he passed the torch of his children, knowing that the future of the Goldwyn family lay in their capable hands. But as he stepped back from the spotlight, Maximilian couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and satisfaction at all that he had accomplished. For though his legacy may have been tainted by blood and betrayal, it was also one of the strength, resilience, and unwavering determination. As he faded into the shadows of history, Maximilian Goldwyn knew that the story of his family would live on for generations to come, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit and the indomitable will to survive against all odds. In the quiet moments shared with his children, Maximilian found solace and reflection. Conversations with Luca and Sofia often turned nostalgic as they sat by the fireplace, reminiscing about the trials and triumphs that had shaped their family's legacy. "Your father would be proud of you both," Maximilian said, his tinged with emotion. "You have the strength and the courage to carry on his legacy." Luca and Sofia exchanged a knowing glance, their determination shining bright in their eyes. "We won't let you down, Dad," Luca replied, his voice steady with conviction. "We'll make sure the Goldwyn name continues to stand for something." And as Maximilian watched his children embrace their destiny, he knew that the future family was in good hands. With the city on the brink of change, Maximilian found himself faced with a choice: cling to the past or embrace the future. Conversation with his advisors turned into perspective as they debate the best course of action for the family moving forward. "It's time to adapt the changing times," Maximilian declared, his voice resolute. "Well, diversity or interest, invest in legitimate businesses, and leave behind the shadows of our past." And so, with a renewed sense of purpose, Maximilian embarked on a new chapter of his life, determined to leave behind a legacy of honor and redemption. As Maximilian delved deeper into his quest for redemption, he found himself confronting uncomfortable truths about his past. Conversations with Isabella turned raw and vulnerable as bared his soul, laying bare the darkest corners of his conscience. "I've done things that I'm not proud of," Maximilian confessed, his voice cracking with emotion. "But I want to make the things right for you, for our children, for everyone affected by my actions." Isabella reached out to caress his cheek, her touch a balm to his troubled soul. "We all have our demons, Max," she whispered, her eyes filled with understanding. "But what matters is that you're willing to confront them and strive to be a better man." And with Isabella's unwavering support by his side, Maximilian found the strength to face his past and embrace the promise of a brighter future. As Maximilian sought to leave behind the shadows of his past, he found himself grappling with the complexities of forgiveness and redemption. Conversations with former enemies turned tentative as he extended olive branches of peace, hoping to mend the bridges that had been born in the fires of conflict. "I know that I can never undo the pain and suffering I've caused," Maximilian said, his voice stinging with regret. But I'm committed to making amends and building a future based on mutual respect and understanding. His former adversaries regarded him with wary eyes, their expressions guarded by receptive to his overtures to reconciliation. As they tentatively shook hands, Maximilian knew that the journey towards redemption would be a long and arduous one, but one that was worth embarking in nonetheless. As Maximilian's twilight years drew to a close, he found himself reflecting on the legacy the would leave behind. Conversations with his grandchildren turned poignant as he shared stories of the family's tumultuous history, imparting wisdom and guidance of the next generation. Remember, the strength of the Goldwyn family lies not in our wealth or power, but in our resilience and unity. Maximilian told them, his voice soft yet full of conviction. No matter what challenges lie ahead, as long as stand together, we can overcome everything. And as his grandchildren nodded in understanding, Maximilian felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing that the legacy of the Goldwyn family would endure to generations to come. And though his time in his world may have come to an end, his spirit would live on in the hearts and minds of those who came after him, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a woman who declared a dream for a better tomorrow. In the quiet moments of solitude, Maximilian found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this point. Conversations with his own conscience turned into perspective as he pondered the choices he had made and the paths he had walked. I've made mistakes, there's no denying that, Maximilian admitted to himself, his voice a mere whisper in the stillness of his thoughts. But I've also done with it what I have believed was necessary to protect my family and secure their future. As he sifted through the memories of triumphs and tribulations, Maximilian found solace in the knowledge that, despite the darkness that had clouded his past, he had always strived to do what he believed was right. With his time drawing here, Maximilian sought to impact his wisdom and experience to the next generation. Conversations with his grandchildren turned into lessons on life, love, and the importance of staying true to oneself. Never compromise your values and your integrity, Maximilian told them, his voice firm with conviction. No amount of power or wealth is worth sacrificing your principles for. As his grandchildren listened intently, Maximilian knew that his words would serve as guiding light for them as they navigated the challenges of their own lives. And though he may not be there to see it, he took comfort in the knowledge that his legacy would live in through them. As Maximilian's final days approached, he found himself seeking closure for the ghost of his past. Conversations with old friends and foes alike turned into heartfelt reconciliations as he sought to make amends for the mistakes that he had. I'm sorry, Maximilian said, his voice heavy with remorse, as he reached out to those he had wronged. I know that words can never undo the pain I've caused, but I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. And as former adversaries extended their forgiveness, Maximilian felt a weight lift from his shoulders, knowing that he could depart from his world with a clear conscience and a heart full of peace. As Maximilian stood on the threshold of the great unknown, he found himself surprisingly unafraid. Conversations with his loved ones turned hopeful as he reassured them that he was ready to face whatever lay beyond with courage and grace. I've lived a full life, filled with love, laughter, and yes, even pain, Maximilian said, his voice steady with resolve, but I wouldn't change a single moment of it, for each experience has shaped me into the man I am today. With his loved ones by his side, Maximilian closed his eyes and took a deep breath, ready to embrace the next chapter of his journey with open arms. And as he stepped into the unknown, he did so with the knowledge that his spirit would live on in the hearts of those he had touched forever and always. As Maximilian's final breath left his body, The world seemed to hold its breath in silent reverence. Conversation ceased, replaced by hushed whispers of mourning as those who had known and loved him grappled with the reality of their passing. But amidst the grief and sorrow, there was also a sense of peace, a knowing that Maximilian's legacy would live on the hearts and minds of all who had been touched by his presence. And as the sun set in the life of Maximilian Goldwyn, a new dawn rose in the horizon, a testament to the enduring power of love, courage, and the indomitable spirit of a man who dared to defy the odds and forget his own destiny.